Hi there, and welcome to another episode of The Inevitable. Johnny's not here, so I did a terrible impersonation of him. This is MotorTrend's podcast, our vodcast on the future of mobility. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And does it go through China? That is the topic of today's episode. I'll just tell you that we are not sponsored, so if you want to sponsor us, you're welcome. Just shoot me a note, edward.loh@hearst.com. Love to receive your support. Today's guest, very special, very interesting. I got to give a shout out to our man Kyle Connor from Out of Spec. He said, "Hey, you got some time? You know who Wheelsboy is? This guy, he's on Instagram. He's got a YouTube channel. They're rolling into town, coming your way. You should have them on." In this case, we have Ethan Robertson from Wheelsboy. This is a big YouTube channel. They cover Chinese vehicles, mostly Chinese EVs. They are a dual language channel, so they do content in English, but also in Chinese for the China market. So we have a fascinating conversation coming all about Chinese EVs. So if you want to know anything about where the China market is currently, this is the episode for you. It is a long one too. We went way over time because we had a lot of things to talk about. So let's just get right to it. Ethan Robertson from Wheelsboy. Let's bring him on.
Welcome to The Inevitable, a podcast by MotorTrend.
All right, so ni hao.
Ni hao.
Ethan Robertson of Wheelsboy.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for crossing the Pacific and then the country to come onto the podcast. Let's just start there. So what were you doing? You were driving across the U.S.?
Yeah, so right now I am on a road trip from New York to LA. Obviously, we're at the last stage of it here for my Chinese language channels. So something that a lot of my subscribers on YouTube, those people listening or watching that have heard of me, probably know me from YouTube, and they don't realize that a majority of my content is actually in Chinese because I speak Chinese pretty fluently.
Okay.
And so it's largely similar to what I do. Well, I say that. It's similar in that it's automotive content. And so for this trip, we were just showing my Chinese audience America. Started in New York, went to, Detroit for a few days, Chicago, burned across the Midwest because there's not a lot of car-related stuff there that we could do. And then now we're in LA.
And what'd you drive?
We drove from Enterprise. Originally, I'll tell you this. Originally, we wanted a Chevy Malibu. The reason being that one of the differences between my Chinese content and my English content is on YouTube, all they want to hear me talk about is Chinese EVs. Not even hybrids. People get annoyed when I talk about hybrids. Whereas in my Chinese language content for audiences in China, they want to hear me talk about American cars and American car culture. And so we really wanted to get a Malibu. They didn't have any Malibus. Right. So we ended up in a 2026 Toyota Camry, which honestly has been fantastic.
You didn't reach out, or I guess you don't have a relationship with U.S. car companies to borrow vehicles? You could have.
So that's a great question. We actually... So I'll tell you, when we were I knew I was going to Detroit. We have a good relationship with, say, General Motors, Ford in China. We've worked with them before in terms of getting cars to them and everything. But when you reach out to the American side, the left hand does not speak to the right.
They're like, who?
And so, they're like, who's this guy? I reached out to, luckily, through the stuff I've done there, I have some pretty high up friends at General Motors in China. But even those people were unable to convince anyone here that we should be given access to cars. And so I really wanted to film the Celestiq, for example. And I had people working in the background. I tried going in the front door to say, look, just I really want to show it off to my Chinese audience because they can't see it in China. And unfortunately, they just couldn't get their stuff together fast enough to get me, into one. So
next time, call us. We have an office in Detroit, and we could have gotten a car and probably you could have come by the office and probably just driven it around. So.
Well, I'll see you on my next road trip.
Okay, great. All right, so you did a road trip. You're here now, and then you're going to fly back to Shanghai.
Correct.
In a few days.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's start with you, and then I want to talk about Wheelsboy, obviously. But you're fluent in Chinese. You seem like a young man. How did that? Like, what's your story? So you grew up. We were talking before we started recording, North Carolina.
Yes.
Around outside of the Raleigh-Durham area.
Correct. Burlington. Shout out to it.
Okay. And education, UNC, Chapel Hill.
Yes.
Okay. Degree in?
My degree, my undergraduate was in public relations, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you study Chinese at UNC?
I did. We'll just start there. So
Okay.
it goes back a little farther than that. Essentially, when I was going into high school, I started to get interested in Chinese. I was somewhat of a weird kid in that, you go with your mom to when she goes to the salon. There's magazines there, right? If there weren't any car magazines, MotorTrend, of course, number one.
Sure. Thank you.
There you
It's
go.
good at PR.
And then I would find like Forbes or The Economist or something like that. I'm not saying I was some sort of incredibly intelligent whiz kid, but it was what I was interested in. And when you are interested in those topics, China is incredibly important, right? Obviously, economically, politically. So I started to get interested in it, started to read books about it. And my father had the foresight to say to me, hey, why don't you study Chinese? And so when I went to university at UNC Chapel Hill, starting my sophomore year, I wish I'd started my freshman year, honestly, I started doing Chinese language. And I did it for 3 semesters before I ended up getting a fellowship, which sent me to China for the very first time in 2013.
Wow.
So 6 months, 4 months in Beijing. It was an intensive language training program where I literally signed a contract with the program that said, we catch you speaking English 3 times, 3 strikes, you're out.
Wow.
You ain't got to go back to America, but you can't stay in our school.
Wow.
So luckily I got no strikes because I only spoke English in the bars with my friends. But it was actually during that program on the Great Wall of China that I met your co-host, Mr. Johnny Lieberman.
Really?
Really. So I'll try to tell this quickly.
Okay.
And I love Johnny. I'm disappointed he's not here because I would have loved to meet him. He and you are both people. It doesn't make a good podcast when the guest spends the entire time sucking up to the host, but really quickly.
Please.
No, seriously, it's
Now I'm
very
really
exciting.
Now I'm really happy Johnny isn't here.
There you go.
He missed this whole thing.
I'll give you all the attention.
This is great.
I mean, truly. I mean, to be participating in anything related to MotorTrend for me is like a childhood dream because I grew up reading the big 3, right? The Car and Driver, MotorTrend, Road and Track, and every month religiously, I was the kid. I didn't hide a dirty magazine behind my textbook. I had a MotorTrend so that I could read it in the back of class when the teacher wasn't paying attention. So seeing your name on so many articles that I've read and then being able to be here is very exciting for me.
Right.
So we'll cut it off there. But 2013, I'm in this study abroad program. I'm on the Great Wall of China because we're there to visit. I am walking and I see in the distance a parking lot and there are a rainbow of Bentley Continental like flying spurs, right? And I think to myself, in China, these cars only come in black and dark blue. There's no one that buys a red or green Continental flying spur, right? So I think there's something up. Not 3-4 minutes later, I'm walking on the wall. I hear a voice that I've heard in 100 different videos. It's Johnny Lieberman. He's with his producer or videographer or whoever was there with him. And I immediately introduced myself. He was very nice, very generous with his time. We chatted for a bit. I was very worried that I mentioned that language pledge before. Mm-hmm. I risked getting a strike so that I could talk to him. And he gave me his email. And I sent him an email telling him about myself, saying, I want to be in automotive PR, right? He sent me back an email. His email said, hey, I'm more than happy to introduce you to the PR from different companies. But my honest advice to you is don't learn Chinese because there's 100 million Chinese people that are willing to work for less money that are also learning English. So the happiest people I know in automotive PR are German company ones. So you should learn German. And I said, thank you, Mr. Lieberman, for the advice. I appreciate it. And so this story, now we look at the way the automotive landscape is. Right. And, we'll get into this. One of these companies, one of these countries' companies is on the ascendance. Sure. It ain't Germany.
Right.
So
the language, the German language is dying out because it is such a complicated, all the words are super long and every German you meet speaks fluent English.
Correct.
And if you speak passably good German, they'll still speak to you in English because they don't deign to speak to you in their native tongue. That's hilarious. I was like, I don't think Johnny's ever been to China. No, and in fact, he is. He did. He went there for season 6, episode 12 of Ignition to evaluate the 2014 Bentley Flying Spur.
There you go. I didn't make it up.
That's wild.
So the moral of this story is don't take advice from Johnny Lieberman.
Exactly. I follow that all the time, and that is great advice. Man, this episode's getting off to a great start because we're just slagging Johnny in absentia.
I figured you'd like that.
Yes. No, it's not, okay. That's hilarious. And good on you, A, for having you and your dad for having the foresight to study Chinese and not pick up German and don't follow Johnny's advice. It is something that, frankly, everybody's been saying since like 2000, like, hey, China's coming up. Of course, my Chinese is terrible. We won't get into that. So you graduated university about 2014 then? 2014, 2015?
That's correct.
Okay. And then immediately moved to China or have...
Yeah. So I came back from that 6 months in China and I knew that I wanted to go back. You know, it was the test for me. Like I liked the language. I was willing to sit. I mean, to this day, when it comes to the Chinese language, I'm so willing to spend as much of my time as possible thinking about it and focusing on it. I still have a habit from when I started learning Chinese. I walk down the street alone and speak Chinese to myself and practice my tones. So I'm like, ma, 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 ma. You know what I mean? And people think I'm crazy, obviously, but it stuck with me. So I knew I wanted to go back. I knew I didn't want to teach English, which is the #1 thing that people do. Right. And I have no problem with people who teach English. It's very important. But my sister is a teacher in the U.S. And I think if you're going to be a teacher, you should really care about it. You should have a passion for it. And you should want to do it, not because you want to have a cool summer in China, but because you want to help kids. So I instead enrolled in a master's program for international relations at Wuhan University. Okay. So from 14 to 18, I was in Wuhan. And then when I graduated, we'll skip right to the next part, which is where we get to the Wheelsboy thing. In 2018, I moved to Shanghai to work for a small public relations agency who had clients including Chery, Jaguar, Land Rover, so the joint venture in China. I think we had some stuff with Ford or something at the time. And it was while I was working there and being very bored working there that I met my now current partners for Wheelsboy.
Okay. Interesting. So you were in Wuhan.
Yes, I was. I left as I was very funny. So there's a lag time when you live abroad between when people don't really recognize where you live. Right. So in 2019, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, when everything starts to go down, I had a lot of friends reaching out to me being like, hey, you're still in Wuhan, right? And I'm like, no. I've been gone for a year and a half. Don't worry.
It's funny because when we took some colleagues to China to test vehicles. We did it with D-Car. And we ended up at the Wuhan, this big testing facility there. But that's pretty new. I don't think that likely was not built but when you were there. I think that's like only a couple of years old.
Most things in China are pretty new, so yes. I believe it.
Okay, yeah, it was a brand new spot. Okay. Okay, great. I'll probably come back to certain elements of your journey, but tell me about Wheelsboy. I know it's 211,000 followers on YouTube. Mm-hmm. That's the primary platform, right? You guys aren't like somehow bigger on like TikTok or something.
No, I wish. I wish. I've had a hard time with TikTok. I'm not a short video guy. I prefer to have time to sit and really talk about something. Okay, so it's a little bit on Instagram, but mostly your audience on YouTube, which is English speaking, right? I'm assuming you're not bigger on like Spanish YouTube or something. Just Chinese. I'm way bigger in China.
Okay, so, and the audience for Wheelsboy is who exactly?
Great question. I mean, you can break it down a few ways, right? If you want to think about it geographically, our largest audience is America consistently, but that's still maybe 15% max. After that, it's a lot of other, English-speaking countries such as, Britain and those European countries in there. But oftentimes it depends on the car. So if we have a car that's just gone on sale in Southeast Asia, we'll have a lot of views from Southeast Asian countries. But in general, the top 5 are, the US, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, Canada, India is in there a lot. So it's pretty diverse that way. But I think that if you think of it more of in an abstract sense, it's people who are really interested in learning what's happening in the Chinese car market, looking for a window into it. And luckily for them, and for us, they've been able to find our channel because we're one of the few that are able to do it.
Okay. And then you said you're bigger in China.
Yeah, so...
On like Xiaohongshu?
Xiaohongshu, yeah. So Little Red Book and Chinese TikTok. So my TikTok here in the U.S. has 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers or followers or whatever. My one in China has like 650,000. Okay. My Billy, which is the closest equivalent to YouTube, I guess, is about the same as YouTube, about 210, 215 or something like that.
That's you personally or the
Wheelsboy.
Wheelsboy.
I don't have any personal channels. It's funny.
Okay.
I get asked, I've been asked by especially other media, and they say like, so you got a personal channel, right? And I go, listen, bud, unlike you, I've got to do everything twice. I've got to do it in English and Chinese. So any energy I would have had to do the Ethan Robertson Talks About Chinese Cars channel, it's been used up doing the Chinese.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So, well, wait. Sorry, which is the platform that's much bigger? Wheelsboy on which platform in China is bigger than the YouTube?
I would say that
Or in total?
in total, I mean,
Okay.
in total on Chinese platforms, we have about 2 million subscribers.
okay.
Because the thing you have to understand about Chinese media landscapes, it's very different than the U.S. The U.S. has a few monopolies, right? If you want to do long form videos, YouTube, right? In China, there's a bunch of platforms. It's especially true when it comes to short form video. So U.S., it's TikTok and Instagram and a few others. YouTube now. When we publish a Chinese video, we publish it, a short video, for example, we publish it on like 10 different websites because it's so scattered across all of these. And they all have different types of audiences. Some are more rural, some are more city, some are more female. So you have
do you
to
do the
tailor
same
content.
video? Do you one like vertical 60-second, or do you have to actually cut for the platform?
We definitely, some short videos, you want to tailor content as much as possible, and we won't get off into the weeds into this stuff.
Also shoot natively within the app usually, right? You get a bump for that. So I heard TikTok rewards you if you shoot.
That very well may be true. I'm not aware of it being on the Chinese side, but you do want to tailor the content as much as possible. But for honest and practical reasons, there's not that much tailoring you can do because time is limited.
Right. Okay. All right. So then, aside from reading the big three or the big four, whatever, MotorTrend, Car and Driver, what was it like starting out as a car reviewer? You had a lot of experience, or you just kind of jumped in, or there's some early videos I can look at?
Don't. I beg you, do not go to my YouTube channel and then put like reverse order on the dates. Because if you go back and watch my original videos, well, first of all, my first videos were actually in Chinese.
Okay.
So in 2019, it was like spring or late winter of 2019 that I met my two partners. So Justin Chun, who's here in the room with me, and he drove across the country, and then Seaman Xiang. So Justin and Seaman they'd been in automotive media at that point almost a decade already. They'd actually worked on behalf of German publications in China. They had been basically the German branch, or sorry, the Chinese branch. Autobild.
Automotive and Sport.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah,
and so, but during that time, they kind of broke off and made their own company late in 2018. And they were smart enough to realize, even then, they were late entering the game. So they couldn't come and bring the same kind of, this is your average Chinese car reviewer guy talking about a Chinese car. They needed something to separate themselves. And from their experience filming with the Germans, they knew that Chinese people loved to hear foreigners talk about Chinese cars and cars in general. And so they were looking for a foreigner that spoke Chinese, that knew a little bit about cars. And they, luckily, through friend of a friend of a friend type thing, they got introduced to me. And so, as is so often the case in my life, pure luck. And so we started filming videos in Chinese in April of 2019. And then we didn't really start doing YouTube videos full time until, I think, 2020 we started doing them.
Okay.
So at that point, the metaphor I make is when it came time for me to start doing videos in English, it was like you ran the first half of a marathon with a weighted vest, and then all of a sudden you take the weighted vest off and you're like, whoa, this is a lot easier. So having said that, though, you can still go back and see how bad I was,
Yeah, I won't. I did look you up. I actually did the proper thing, which is to look at the most recent videos, but also most popular. So which we'll talk about some of those vehicles. I just had a question that now escapes me.
Was related to how I got started, maybe?
No, it's okay. Well, I'm sure it'll come back to me. So let's talk about the China market, since that's what you cover. Oh, here's a question. It did come back to me. What is the novelty about having for the Chinese audience to have a foreigner? My parents won't call a guaylo, right? A white guy. Talk about the car, and it has to be in Chinese, right? Is the novelty that you speak fluently? That's part of it, but also your impressions of it? Like what, tell me, what's the...
So the first one is absolutely true. I think there's a novelty of having someone step on camera that looks like I do and come out with pretty fluent Chinese. You know,
Okay.
people are impressed by that. I always say that learning Chinese, I really encourage people to do it for obvious, there's a lot of advantages to it. There's a lot of opportunities that come with it, but it's also one of the easiest countries to learn the language in the environment in that people are so kind and encouraging to you. Unfortunately, in the US, I feel like, you know, me, you, there are nice people that if you meet someone who doesn't speak English fluently, you're not going to disrespect them or belittle them because of that.
Right.
But it's not necessarily always true. In China, if you come out and say one word in Chinese, the person's going to be like, whoa,
Right.
because they're much more of they see themselves as more of an underdog. And they see now the global attention that they're getting for these things, and it's a real source of pride for them. So to know that an American is going there to learn Chinese means that China's important, and learning Chinese is important. So that obviously brings them a lot of pride, which I think is a great thing. And that's the same reason when it comes to talking about cars as well. So originally I talked a lot more about Chinese cars, and so that's because people were like, you know, some Chinese people to this day have a lot of doubts about Chinese cars. You have to, I've often had conversations, especially with older generations, where they don't believe that Chinese cars are as good as people like me say they are. And so they like hearing the opinion of someone who comes from what we would call a country with real automotive history like the US. They take that as having a lot of value in that perspective. And when it comes to me talking about American cars in my Chinese content, that's why they also love it, because it feels authentic. And people online, this is said all the time, but it's true, authenticity is very important.
Okay. I get it. Okay, good. You open the door for it. So let's just jump in. Let's talk about the hype around Chinese vehicles. Like, is it hype? Like, you've driven, how many Chinese vehicles would you say you've now driven in the last, 8 years of
Something like
reviewing
that.
cars?
Hundreds.
Okay.
Yeah. From pretty much every single brand that they have.
Okay. And in the early years, I would say, is it true that it seems to be the real sort of, the real takeoff point for the quality and the innovation kind of happened during the pandemic? Like, because I've been in this industry for a while now. I think I first went to China for work. I've been going to Hong Kong since I was a little kid, but first going to like the Beijing show, it might have been like 2008 or 9. I went to the Shanghai Grand Prix in 2012, and I still remember like the pollution was really bad, and all the cars were like super knockoff looking. And then I didn't go for a long time, and I kept hearing from my relatives who live in Hong Kong and we're going to Shenzhen for like vacation or go to eat because it's cheaper. They're like, the cars here are really good. You know, you got to come check it out. And I went there. And I was like, yeah, holy crap. Like, first of all, there's a lot of them. Everything looks new. But is that like when you started in 2018, 2019, what were the cars you were reviewing like? And when would you say you had like an aha moment about Chinese cars arriving or being like world class?
So I think you nailed the time period.
Okay.
There was a slow buildup until around 2019, 2020. And then due to the pandemic, China basically shut its borders, right? And so that made a 3-year period or so where these outsiders, you know, they didn't know what was happening in China. So I would say that the 2023 Shanghai Auto Show I remember going around, is really entertaining to see all the German executives and Japanese executives, American executives walking around absolutely like jaws on the floor.
Yeah.
Because they could not believe that they last came to a show in 2019, and this is what the Chinese cars look like now. Yeah. The change was tremendous. So early on, I was driving, BYDs for sure. BYD Han was an early one. You know, stuff from Ion, which is a sub-brand from GAC or Guangxi Automotive. I would say that the real turning point for me, because those cars were like, you know, they're pretty good. They're pretty impressive. The first Chinese car, one of the first Chinese cars that I really went like, oh, this is really nice. It was the BYD Seal. So that was 2021, I believe. And the BYD Seal was BYD's competitor to the Model 3, basically. They're kind of compact or midsize or whatever sedan. And the thing that really blew me away was, at that point, I already knew that Chinese cars could be very affordable. I knew that they could have really good smart technology or whatever. I knew their build quality could be pretty good, but they couldn't make a car, as far as I could tell, they didn't make any cars that drove very well. They just didn't have any kind of enjoyment from behind the wheel. They were very soft. They could be comfortable, but there's no steering feel. The front end is just heavy and dead. Driving a BYD Seal through the mountains outside of Shenzhen, I actually got chastised by one of my co-founders because he's like, "You got to slow down." But that's what made me want to do, was drive it fast and actually enjoy it. The suspension and the way it was tuned, the damping and the spring rate and everything, it was great. It felt very, very good. It felt like a car you'd actually want to drive. So that was a real turning point. And then after that, more and more companies started to make cars that weren't just super high value, super techy, soft things. They actually were pretty good from behind the wheel.
Okay. Yeah, that 2023 show you referenced, is that the one the Yangwang U8 came out, or was that the year after? When did it come out and it was doing like the
thing when it was using the
counter rotating wheels to go across
yeah.
the stage? I feel like that was the jaw drop. Like, holy.
Yeah, I believe it would have been 2023.
Okay.
You know, somebody
Yeah.
can correct me,
Yeah.
but I believe it was around 2023, 2024, beginning of 2024.
And then had you been going to the Chinese auto shows like while you were there, just like in general?
Yeah, from starting in 2019. I'm sorry, it was either 2019 or 2020 was my first one. It was Beijing. It was Beijing that is an even year. Excuse me. Then it would have been 2020. And so I was going every year. So for me, I was the proverbial, frog in the water that's, the boiling water or whatever. And so I saw it coming. But everyone else, for them, it was a instant that it happened.
Well, I think for a lot of people, especially some of the seasoned veterans, the execs who had been going to China and then had to take a break for 3 years, I think, which you're correct. Like I tell my staff all the time, like, you gotta understand, the last time I went to China, we would walk around and you'd get the press materials and you would laugh because they had booth models in like the really short like vinyl skirts, and you're like,
yes,
America, we stopped doing this like 15 years ago because you get in trouble for this if you do this in the US. All the press handout stuff was misspelled, pictures were terrible. If you lifted the curtain or looked behind one of the stages, there's exposed wiring. You'd be like, this feels still a bit like a second world kind of show. And then going back recently, first of all the PRs are like Western trained. I mean, I think the NIO, I knew the overseas NIO PR rep. She's like Stanford grad, worked at BMW China, worked at Mercedes China, now she's working for NIO. Same for the lady at XPeng. They're all super polished. All the anytime we get asked for press materials, like it's all incredible.
Yep. And
then it's showing up in the product as well. So, okay. So we are simpatico. Let me pivot here just a little bit. Because you mentioned China and you mentioned the BYD Seal being a Model 3, their version of the Model 3. So this is a good fact check moment for me. So what has been the impact of Tesla on the China market?
It's hard to overstate the impact that Tesla had. The Chinese government, Tesla was the first foreign automotive company to be allowed to have a wholly foreign-owned, self-owned company there. Previously, you needed to have a joint venture, 50-50 joint venture between a Chinese company and a foreign company. And just for the record, the Chinese company's name always comes first. It's not it's not GM SAIC, it's SAIC General Motors, right? And so they were the first one to do that. And I think that was a very strategic and pivotal move by the Chinese government, because they wanted to encourage Tesla to come in because they knew Tesla was making the best electric cars in the world at the time. And they wanted to create competition for their local automakers, for them to be able to learn from Tesla. And so that's exactly what happened. Tesla came and all these automakers kind of like sat up and went like, oh, this is how well you can make an electric car. And so I think that they took it a lot more seriously after that. And that was the result, is cars now that are frankly better than whatever Tesla's making.
Okay, I want to dive in on that, but let me just keep going in that one particular thread. Is it true? Because I say this a lot on the pod previously, that basically all the major Chinese players, all the big Chinese OEMs, have a vehicle that's within 1 to 2 millimeters of either the Model Y or the Model 3. Is that accurate? Relative, like, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
People say, it's funny, it's kind of a joke now. I mean, it's a joke on YouTube and in English too, but the Model Y killer, the Model 3 killer, like you said, there's a dozen or 24 Model Y killers and Model 3 killers. None of them have managed to kill the Model Y or the Model 3, just for the record. I am one of the YouTubers who's made the title of the thumbnail that says Model 3, Model Y killer and everything, because unfortunately on YouTube, that's what works.
Right.
But no one's quite been able to do that, the last killing blow on either of those cars. Tesla might do it,
Right.
by never updating them, but...
Right. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. So then, what is Tesla's status currently then, right? Is it far and away? I mean, I know historically China's had a soft spot for Buick as the American brand, right? There's a lot of history behind Buick, presidential limousine, or just the most successful American brand. Also, VW Group has had a long and huge footprint, and it's funny to watch the declining market share. It's it basically fell off a cliff for VW Group because they were for so long able to sell very, honestly, cheaply made last generation VWs.
Kind of
crap, made locally at huge margins. And I think the Chinese buyer would buy it because VW is a world-renowned, recognized, symbol, and it's a German car, so it's going to have some cachet to it. But where does Tesla currently stand within the gamut of brands, automotive brands within China, inclusive of Chinese brands? Is it near the top?
I would still say it's near the top. So just to give you just anecdotally, I had a friend who works for NIO, right? Well, I still have a friend who he used to work for NIO, but he was the head of the ET9 program. We'll talk about the NIO ET9 later, I think. Right. And he bought himself an ET9 and to celebrate the car coming out, and he went to the dealer, to basically the Chinese DMV, right? And where they register the cars, and he saw so many Teslas. And so, he's in the industry, and we started asking people there, like, why are you buying Tesla? And a lot of them basically said, for one, I think Tesla's still going to be around in 5 years, right? There are so many Chinese companies, and there are many of them are making quality products, but in such a competitive environment, it's not hard to believe that a lot of them aren't going to last another 2 or 3 years.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so there's still a trust and a faith in Tesla that they're making a higher quality product. They're not going to go anywhere. Now, I would say that there are plenty of chinks in the armor, so to speak. There are plenty of increasing number of Chinese consumers who are going, why would I spend 20% more on a Model 3 when I can get this Chinese car that has more features, more range, more in like interior infotainment stuff that's designed specifically for Chinese tastes.
Right.
And I think so. Those people are a growing group, But right now, I would say Tesla is still pretty highly considered.
Top three?
Top three, well,
top five
in their respective competitive categories. I would say probably top three. Yeah, okay. If you're looking for a compact or whatever you want to call it, small mid-size SUV,
compact crossover or sedan.
Yeah, right. Then the Model 3 and the Model Y are still very, very high up in consideration.
S and X are not players at all, right?
No, yeah. They're
long gone.
I mean, not. There's a reason they stopped making them because they weren't selling very many.
Yeah. Okay. And it's great that you mentioned the competitiveness of the Chinese market because I do want to dive into that, but we'll get there. Okay, so and I keep looking at the time because I have a ton of questions to ask you. I'm gonna knock them out.
We can do a speed round at the end.
Right. Don't worry. So the hype is real. Who in particular? Who's top of your list? Who is better than Tesla? Who is better? Who's at the top of? And you can answer this as the China auto industry writ large, inclusive of, and I love they use the term NEVs, right? Like everything, hybrid, gas, hydrogen, whatever you want, full electric, or if you want to just say from a pure EV perspective, who are the best brands currently? So
the way I'm going to approach that question is, who are the brands that I think are going to make the biggest impact globally over the course of the next 10 years or so, right? Yeah. We can go model by model and everything, but, top three, number one has got to be BYD.
Okay.
There's a reason that BYD has the amount of awareness globally that they have now. They're selling in how many? Almost 100 countries. It's still definitely early days. A lot of those countries, they don't sell very many cars, but they're in there, and their market share, as we've seen in places like the UK, is growing exponentially. Like Mexico, you guys have done a great documentary about the number of Chinese cars in Mexico and the number of brands and how quickly it's gone up. That's going to happen in more and more countries.
Right.
And I think BYD is going to be one of the leaders in that. Besides BYD, I would say Geely Group in general. So Geely Group, as you well know, is expansive. So Geely's kind of approach to things is, well, if we want to do something, we'll just buy the company.
Right.
So, Geely's have satellite connection phones in them because they have a satellite company.
Right.
They wanted to make better in-car infotainment, so they bought a phone company and just had them design their UI and UX and stuff. So they've obviously got everything from Volvo and Lotus to Geely, the brand itself, to Zeekr,
right.
which is, I would say, of the Geely group right now, I think they've all got some very strong brands. The one I am bullish on is Zeekr.
Okay.
I have not driven a Zeekr that I didn't think was a pretty darn competitive or maybe the best car in its class. Specifically last year, I believe it was last year or early this year, we reviewed the 9X, which was at CES. Boy howdy, what a car! looks like a Cullinan, has a suspension tuning that I would put up against something from a Mercedes-Benz or an Audi or something.
Okay.
Interior infotainment and tech that makes the Germans look like they're from 1995. Interior material quality that is truly impressive.
Okay.
Insane name audio system that normally only came in Bentleys.
Right.
Right. So. And that's a story that repeats across a lot of other brands. When it comes to maybe smaller, say pure EV brands, smaller brands, a startup group, right? So Wei Xiaoli means NIO, which is Weilai, and then Xiaopeng, which is XPeng,
right.
and then Li Auto, right? Those three I also think are making impressive products. They have varying degrees of financial health, and that changes month to month. But, last year, for example, I drove, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most impressive cars. I gave it an award in our Wheelies Award video, was the NIO ET9, which was as I call it, it's like a technological tour. Like, it's a technological tour de force. It's a warning shot across the bow of the Maybachs, right? Because it's got fully active hydraulic suspension, like you find in the most high-end, like Porsche Panameras and stuff. It has steer-by-wire, like a Cybertruck. It's got an incredibly well-designed and put-together interior. It's like very thoughtfully built and everything. The material qualities are beautiful. It was one of the most impressive, left the biggest impression on me driving experiences last year, one of them. And then, obviously, Li Auto and XPeng and stuff, they're making their own things. If you ask me, okay, Tesla Model, what are you taking over a Model 3, right? There's so many options. Xiaomi SU7, which I know you guys drove in China.
Yep.
My co-host on the channel, Jonathan, is currently headed to Beijing to drive the updated version of that car. And that'll be coming out on the channel, sneak peek. And I still wouldn't pick that one, though, even though I really like it. I would pick the XPeng P7. The new one that came out that looks like it came from Cyberpunk 2077, the video game.
Right.
The P7 is so beautiful in my eyes. The interior's fantastic. The interior technology is awesome. The driving experience is good. It's fun to drive, for a big, heavy EV, right? It's not a Cayman. And so that's another one.
They showed XPeng P7 at IAA. I think I was there.
I believe
and
so.
they had a booth showing it. Okay. All right, because you could go on all day because there's so many.
You're gonna have to cut me off. You're gonna have to cut me off.
But I think that's a good list. So I have no real surprises there, right? BYD, the volume leader at the top. I want to circle back to it though. Zeekr, and it's great because I've driven at least one vehicle from each of the ones you mentioned, so I feel slightly validated that I have good editorial sense there.
Happy to do that for you.
Right, thank you. And then interesting that you mentioned the three sort of startup-y ones, NIO, XPeng, and Li Auto, because I was super impressed with Li Auto. I think it was L6, the one that had like the crazy screen. I was watching a movie when I could drive.
The two big
Yes. Yeah.
17-inch screens or whatever. Yeah.
So that one. XPeng and NIO have been, I think, the best at sort of foreign outreach to us. We can't get BYD to pick up the phone. And I actually just found Stella's business card she gave me like 6 years ago. And I'm like, I've been looking for this thing. So I actually want to email her directly and say, would you please call me back? Like, we would like to drive some of your cars. But it's funny because as good as I hear, and I've driven NIO and I've driven XPeng. I don't know if I can't remember if I driven XPeng, but I've definitely had a lot of interaction with both those brands. The stuff does look fantastic. NIO in particular, I visited their
NIO house.
The NIO house in Sumjian in Shenzhen. Got a walkthrough, had a matcha there, like saw
pretty good coffee.
Saw them stitching little hats for the assistant, the Nomi, and
robot head.
I was like, this stuff is great. And these guys are literally, if anybody out of China is like the Apple store or it's NIO. But then I also hear they're one of the ones people think might not be around because they're the cash burn rate and they're doing incredibly expensive things like the battery swap system and the whole network, like the
NIO houses that you mentioned.
And the NIO houses, like
huge fixed costs,
great look, everything looks insane. But are they going to be around? Are they going? I heard there was talk of a big American car manufacturer maybe sniffing around to buy them, and William Li really encouraging that because they need some cash infusion. So I want to come back to the discussion of awesome Chinese cars, but let's talk a little bit about what's going on right now in terms of the competition, right? Because in the prep for this, I watched a couple of your videos and I listened to actually the podcast, which you should keep doing. I don't know why you stopped.
Time.
Okay.
Oh, there's not enough time in the day.
But there was the whole discussion about the price war that's going on and been going on, right? But also, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a ton of the market is so competitive in China that a lot of these car companies are going out of business, and it's sort of like a cage match. It feels like an octagon that the government has set up where companies are eating each other. I mean, we felt so stupid. We gave Jidu an award like 2 years ago, and in the time it took for us to say, hey, their AI system in their car seems really cool. It's like an early AI assistant, and the fact that you can command the car from outside and open the doors and all that stuff. And then by the time we were like polishing the award, they announced they went out of business.
Yep.
They're gone.
Yeah.
Like, so.
And in between, they changed their name from Jidu to GUA because Baidu backed out.
Oh boy, that's why. Okay, I missed that part of the press release. So the competition is real, the price war is real. And he's nodding his head for those of you who are listening.
It's brutal. I'll go less visual. It's brutal. Yeah.
So then what's going to happen, do you think? I tell people, I think in 10 years, maybe less, you're going to end up with like 3 or 5 really strong Chinese companies that are like legit world-class, legit going up toe-to-toe, VW, AG, Mercedes-Benz, GM. Like, yeah, that seems to be like puppet masters from in the Chinese government trying to engineer that.
Yeah, I think that the Chinese government has been very clear about the fact that their goal is to create their own, for lack of a better term, big three. They want to create an environment. They have created an incredibly competitive environment, a cutthroat. We've got everything from, these days, Chinese car companies and anyone operating in China, right? They have these big press conferences, right? Big press release events where they reveal the car and they always wait until then to reveal the price. It's frustrating for media because even though you sign a NDA where I'll be charged millions of dollars if I break the contract and talk about the space of the trunk, they won't tell me the price.
Right.
And the reason is they don't know what it is yet. They wait until, I kid you not, I have this is straight from the horse's mouth. They wait until an hour before, sometimes they're changing the PowerPoint to make sure that the price, they don't get surprised by something. So for example, this has happened on multiple occasions where, XPeng comes out with what was going to be their first higher-end car, the G9, which they compared to the Porsche Cayenne and everything. Almost immediately after that came out, they got undermined by Li Auto with their L8 and L7. Li Auto basically just came out and said, like, well, we're undercutting your price by this much, Or if they were to announce it days beforehand, in between that time and the press conference, you could have two other competitors come out and just completely steal your thunder by undercutting you by 10%. So that's why that's just an example of how competitive it is. But this is exactly what the Chinese government, wanted to happen. They've said that. Now the question is, at this point, what's going to happen? How many of these brands are going to survive? Realistically, you do not need dozens of brands. You can't have that many brands if you're going to have big, strong international competitors that go up against, as you said, VW and Toyota and GM. So it's going to be a question of how they're able to winnow it down without having it be a real economic impact. Right. Because, so it's interesting. If you look at it historically, for decades now, even before the huge growth in what we call the NEVs, which, by the way, I also love that term. I think it's a very useful term. Right.
New energy vehicles.
New energy vehicles. And as you said, it encompasses everything, right? So even before that huge growth in the number of brands because of that trend, you had too many Chinese brands. Geely was, even 15 years ago, had too many brands and ended up having to close some. And so there has been conversation in the Chinese automotive industry about conglomeration and whatever.
Consolidation.
Consolidate. Thank you. Consolidation. That's why he's the expert, folks.
No.
Consolidation within the Chinese automotive industry for way before this thing started. And it hadn't really happened, because what has happened and happened then is that you have these local provincial heroes. You have, it's not just the central Chinese government giving money to these manufacturers.
Right.
It's the provincial level and the city level. Big mega cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen and Beijing have their own champion that they want to be General Motors or Chrysler or Ford. Maybe they don't want to be Chrysler.
Well, they want to be they want to be Tesla.
They do. Yes.
They're investing in a startup like a NIO or a Li Auto with the hopes that it will take off.
Right.
And this early investment the seed money that they've given will mint a bunch of billionaires within the investor class, which could be, to your point, a city, a regional government, whatever.
And make factories and employ people and everything. And so because you've got the investment, and it's important to understand that the Chinese government, just like we have in the U.S., where we have a federal system in which states have a certain amount of independence from the central government, that's true in China as well. The provinces and the major cities, such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, as I mentioned before, they do have a certain level of independence, and they get to make up their own policies and stuff until the central government tells them you better stop. But that's kind of how they use it. They're experimenting all the time with things. And so that's why they are very unwilling to stop giving money to these brands, because they're hoping that it's a war of attrition right now.
Right.
And so they're hoping to just outlast each other. And if I can outlast you by just 1 month and you're gone and I'm still around, then I win.
Right. Because they'll also probably end up taking their customers, right?
And for the
buy
record,
them out, right?
Yeah. And for the record, this is how it works in almost every industry in China. Because whether it is, ride share, like bikes, like shared bikes, what happened is that starting about 10, 15 years ago, every Chinese city was inundated with these companies dumping bikes on the sidewalks. And a few of those brands were able to, because they had a big enough war chest, outlast the other ones. And then now there's only 3, basically. Right? Same thing with like coffee shops and stuff. Like Luckin Coffee is the huge brand that came in, and they've spent so much money marketing and building locations everywhere just to choke the life out of anybody else that might compete.
Luckin is the Starbucks of China, right? And
it's like everything. One of the 6 Starbuckses of China.
Right. And they just bought Blue Bottle, which made a lot of news here, because Blue Bottle used to be like this sort of artisanal, one of the earliest artisanal bespoke sort of third wave coffee shops, and now it's like the Chinese mega conglomerate just bought them out. Okay, while it's still fresh in my head, just another question about Tesla. So Tesla as a brand is still well respected, well regarded in China. How about Elon? Has any of the backlash? Elon is a very polarizing figure here for all the stuff he said, some of the hand gestures, some of the potentially anti-Semitic stuff. How does that resonate at all in China, or is he still the demigod? Everyone's like, the dude's launching and landing rockets on their butts, and he has this car company and whatever, Starlink and right? Is there any issues with Elon in China?
Well, I can't speak for all of China, but I will
Please
say
do.
that. No, okay. Well, as a young white man from North Carolina, allow me to represent the people of China.
Yes.
So I will just say that anecdotally, in my experience, the people I know around me and everything. I mean, Shanghai is Tesla City. Okay, I live in Shanghai.
Shanghai Giga, right?
Shanghai Giga. You know, I'm telling you, when I say that every third car on the street in Shanghai is a Model 3 or a Model Y. It is absolutely unbelievable. I've got a video I did on Instagram where I was in a parking garage and I looked around. It was like I was in some sort of like a Twilight Zone.
Tesla warehouse.
Yeah, it was like a Tesla warehouse. I just went Model Y, Model Y, Model Y, Model Y. Point being, he's very popular still. I would say that his reputation in China, because, you know, I mean, Chinese people, what America does affects China, of course. So they're paying attention to American politics, but they don't have the same context or same level of involvement or frankly stakes that a lot of people like myself and I think you as well have in the things that Elon Musk is doing and saying in America. And so I would say that his reputation in China is more similar to his reputation of a few 4 or 5 years ago when he was more of like I want to buy his autobiography because I want to know how he became the real world Tony Stark, like, you know,
Right.
Tony Stark, you know.
Okay.
So that hasn't really caught up yet.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to some of these, the mythology, the hype. The hype is real about Chinese cars. You listed off a number of brands and a couple of key models. Let's get into a couple of specifics. Are there any, this is Ethan Robertson's, your own money here, and you had the ability, I don't know where you'd be living to make this happen, but you could decide between this awesome Chinese car and sort of the well-known in America, well-established category killer, right?
Sure.
So let's say it's the G-Wagon, and it's either the electric or the gas G-Wagon. Are you buying like the Yangwang U8 or something else, or the tank over that? Or are there any examples of, hey man, that Taycan Cross Turismo is really awesome, but I'm taking an ET9. Like what? Give me some examples that will rile people up.
Sure. Ooh, okay. So I already mentioned one. XPeng P7, honestly, over Model 3, XPeng P7, Xiaomi SU7, the SU7, there's a bunch that I would take over the Model 3.
Okay.
When it comes to the example, the ET9 I've already talked about, if you said to me, Mercedes-Benz EQS or ET9, I have driven both of them. I want the ET9. Okay. I find the ET9 to be a much more impressive piece of technology, and as an electric car, it's simply better than the EQS and the interior and all this stuff. You mentioned the Yangwang U8, right? It swims. It's got 1,200 horsepower. It's a EREV, right?
EREV, right?
EREV. And then, you know, it goes up against, in China, your Range Rovers, your G-Wagons, your GLSs and stuff like that. And in most cases, it's cheaper than them. And yet it is this absolutely ridiculous combination of different features and performance and stuff. So yeah, I would take a Yangwang U8 over a Range Rover. Okay. You know, let's see. You know, here's a good one. Okay, there's a category in China that essentially doesn't exist in America, right? Small, affordable electric cars like the BYD Seagull. Right. So if you said to me, what American car or American market car would you take over a BYD Seagull?
Chevy Bolt?
I would say it doesn't exist. There's nothing. There's nothing. The Chevy Bolt is the closest thing, but there's 100 different Chinese cars that are cheaper than the Bolt. They are more feature packed than the Bolt. They have better range than the Bolt,
and not just a little bit cheaper. Like we're talking, Chevy Bolt's like it's a blessing. It's amazing that it's under $30,000.
Yes,
but you're talking about Chinese EVs that are like just $10,000,
$10,000, and are similar size.
Yeah,
and so that's the real problem I think we're looking at. Is that especially on the lower end of the car market, there is nothing. You know, we've got Ford, who's got to make this, and I really want that program to work, right? The skunk works they've got going on in California, right?
The universal EV, the Ford FUEV.
The Ford FUEV.
It's not FUEV. It's Ford Universal EV, but I call it FUEV because
I like that. I like that. I want that program to work because God knows that not just for the American market, but for the Chinese market, these foreign brands need affordable electric cars to go up against the Chinese. Because honestly, I do believe that there are plenty of Chinese buyers, as I've already mentioned, who would love to be able to go and buy a Ford or a Volkswagen or something over a Chinese car. but there's no option for them.
Right.
It's too expensive. It would be monetarily and value-wise a very poor decision to not buy the Chinese car. So I want them to succeed in that respect, but they simply don't have a dog in the race.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Well, I want to go down that path. Which is to pivot back to the foreign brands, the legacy brands. Sorry, no, not the foreign brands. The legacy Western brands in China, right? First of all, this is a question I actually asked Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, which is, do brands matter in China? Do legacy brands, so let's start at I'm going to go 3 levels. Let's start at the base consumer level. Does the Chevrolet brand, does the Ford brand, does VW, does straight up Toyota, Honda, do these still resonate in China?
With genuine respect to the local people at General Motors and Chevrolet's never mattered in China.
Okay.
Because Chevrolet, it's always been this way, right? In the U.S., the difference between a Chevrolet and a Buick was always very clear. Buick is more luxurious. It's more expensive. It's farther up market. Chevrolet, because they sell Buicks for so cheap in China, and because Buick has such a good reputation, Chevrolet never took off. Not to pick on that one example, but just to say, when it comes to, let's say Ford or Toyota and stuff like that, American companies wise, I do think it still has some value. Do the American brands, apart from Buick, maybe have a lot of value? Not as much as we all wish that they did.
In China,
of course.
Okay.
And I say that knowing, my audience in China knows that I'm biased and that I want American car companies to succeed. Now, the people on YouTube that see me review Chinese cars all assume that I'm a card-carrying member of the Communist Party who's obviously paid by them and Chinese companies, and I'm making all of this up.
Are you?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to refute these salacious accusations.
Okay.
And so but the truth of the matter is, I desperately want to see a world in which Ford, General Motors, heck, even Chrysler, they can make competitive products and continue to be a major part of the automotive industry in places like China. I would say when it comes to like Japanese brands, the Toyota and Honda, they still have good. I mean, their brand still matters for sure.
Really?
Yeah, there's still plenty of people in China that will be very happy to buy a Toyota, even though if they're, for example, someone who's doing rideshare, there are people like if you're getting, and this is changing unfortunately, but for a long time, if you wanted to get more of a premium kind of, it's DD there, right? Not Uber.
Right.
If you want to get a premium, we'll say Uber, a more premium Uber, you wouldn't get, it was usually like a Toyota Avalon or a Camry, right? Because it's more leg space. They have a stretched wheelbase in China. And so there are plenty of drivers that will still choose to get the Camry, even though the BYD Han, which is the direct competitor, is cheaper, has a plug-in hybrid powertrain and everything. But because they believe that Toyota badge means that if they drive 400,000 kilometers or whatever, that thing's going to last, and it's not going to fall apart. So when it comes to those people who are really looking for that specific thing, it's very easy to see that, that there's still some cachet to that when it comes to mainstream cars.
Okay. Interesting. Surprising. I thought there was, especially now, some national sentiment between China and Japan.
Oh, there's always that. I will tell you, I was there in 2013 when I arrived. It was the Diaoyu Senkaku Island thing, and I will not pretend that I didn't see signs on Chinese establishments and on back of, more working class people's vans and stuff that said no Japanese or dogs allowed.
Right.
And I will say this, in modern day China, nowadays I don't see that.
Right.
And I think I'm very happy to say that relationship has cooled. It's not so as bad as it was, but it's interesting, right? I do think that so it speaks to the reputation that these brands have. Now, I'll tell you something that you probably already know, but your audience might not realize, especially if they're listening from places like the US, where Kia and Hyundai are in ascendance, right? They are doing so great. They're leading, some of the leaders when it comes to electric cars here. In China,
Nowhere.
Not with their gas cars, not with their electric cars. I drove an EV6 GT in China. I loved it. Drove great for what it was. It was 400,000+ RMB, so over $60,000 there, right? The starting price is a little more than it is here in the U.S. It goes up against the NIO ET7. The
Right.
NIO ET7 is bigger. The ET7 is faster. The NIO ET7 has heated, cooled, and massaging front and second row seats. It's got screens in the front, screens in the back. It's got air suspension. It's got everything.
Right.
And the only thing the EV6 GT had was that it drove better. And I don't have to tell you,
Right.
you write for an automotive enthusiast publication.
Right.
Enthusiasts are a very small minority.
Right.
So they really are something of an also-ran at this point in the
Interesting.
Chinese market. And they're just like the legacy automakers from the US, they're trying to make a comeback.
Okay. So great. I mean, that lines up with, Jim was much quicker to say absolutely not. Brands don't matter in China. they don't care.
Well,
And
listen to him, not me.
Well,
if you're
no,
going to
but-
listen to somebody.
But it was fascinating to hear that Toyota and Honda still have a chance.
Mm.
But I'm hearing that it's primarily, a lot of it's the value play, right?
Yes.
The Chinese consumer is like, I got this one from America, and I got this one from China, and this one is like 30 to 40% less, and it looks like it has more features, and
Mhm.
more range. So I'm going to go with this one. It's pretty clear. Okay, let's go level up. So the premium, not full luxury or exotic, but Mercedes-Benz, Audi, BMW, Lexus.
Sure.
Do those brands still have value, have cachet, are attractive to the Chinese consumer?
Less and less.
Less
You
and
just got to look at the sales. You just got to look at the sales all the way up to Porsche. Porsche sales are dropping in China. Now, obviously, that part of that is economic reasons. The economy is slowing down over there, just like it is over here. People got less money to spend on Porsches. But the same value proposition that the person who's, say, a working class or middle class person who's looking between a BYD and a Toyota, someone who is upper middle class and could buy a BMW or a Mercedes, a BBA there, right? Beamer, Benz, and Audi. They have to be realistic and say, okay, I could spend $1 million RMB or about 140,000 USD on a BMW X7, right? More than that, actually. It's about 165,000 USD over there. I would get a BMW, right? It's going to drive really well. It's going to be pretty well built, German car reliability, but whatever. Or for literally half as much almost, less than half actually, you could get a Li Auto L9, which has more space, more interior technology, a frankly more luxurious interior in terms of the soft touch materials and the leather and everything, a e-rev powertrain, right? So it's more fuel efficient and everything. Right. And I literally did this exact comparison for my channel. I did an L9 versus X7 video, and I can understand why even somebody who cares about, so obviously in Chinese culture, face is very important, right? Reputation and everything. I think because of the ascendance of the Chinese automotive industry, it's less of an issue now. Driving a Li Auto to pick up your kid in the carpool, and to pick up your kid at the high-end, school, you're not going to look bad, And if you get a Li Auto Mega, the crazy space marine troop carrier looking electric MPV, then you're going to look cool, and people are going to say, oh, he likes China too. So it is no longer it's become, people are, again, it's the value proposition.
So the rondelle, the badge on the nose, the history, the motorsports, the brand ambassador, whoever celebrity they have hawking their word, that doesn't matter. It doesn't resonate.
Less and less.
Interesting.
And it's true for Mercedes, for Audi, for BMW, for Porsche.
Okay.
For all of them.
Well, let's go up even one level higher. So same story for Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Ferrari, Lamborghini. Or is there still there has to be some cachet in pulling up in a Lamborghini and the doors pop. But you also have the Yangwang U9,
That's
right? Like you have some of these crazy that can hop and accelerate and lift one wheel or whatever.
Drive with 3 wheels.
Right. So, but is it the same? Or the other end, which is like I looked at one of your on the Hongqi,
the what they call the Goya or the L1, I believe.
Yes. And that which kind of looks like a Bentley.
Yes.
Like you got. I mean, there has to be some cachet of the spirit of ecstasy or the winged bee, right? Or no?
100% there is.
Okay.
I would say, look, it started from the bottom and is working its way up. Okay. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody in China will look at you with a straight face and say, oh, I definitely want that Geely over that Toyota. Now they will. Then it became people can't look with you in a straight face and say, I want this Li Auto or XPeng over that BMW. Now they will. Now you've got brands like, NIO with the ET9 and their upcoming ES9 SUV and everything, going toe to toe with these higher end, the more premium segment, as you call it. And then now we've got BYD with Yangwang. So so interestingly, you probably know this, Yangwang is that brand name in Chinese. What it means is to look up, as if to look up to the sky or to God or to some God for inspiration or whatever. I say this only because so many times when I do videos about those cars, one of the most common comments is like, why'd they call it a Yang Wang? You know, in Chinese, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And also BYD, I think smartly, has decided in a lot of cases, we're not changing the name. We're making a super high-end vehicle. It's a Chinese name. Suck it up. Get used to it. And that is a sign of confidence that they have. So a week later, they're going to change the name. This is a week after this comes out. The 24 hours are going to change it. But point is, now they're going to the higher-end segments, like the Yangwang U8, which is going up against your G-Wagons and your Bentegas and everything like that. And then also, as you mentioned, the Yangwang U9. Now, does a Yangwang U9, here's what I would say. The week the Yangwang U9 came out, if you rolled up to the club, so to speak, in a Yangwang U9, whoa, everybody's going to be like, oh my God, it's the Yangwang U9. A month afterwards, not so much. I got to tell you, they're not moving a lot of units of the Yangwang U9 these days. I think it's like single-digit sales or something for the last month. Because up until this point, there's only so many Chinese consumers that are willing to say, I'll spend the $250,000 on the Yangwang U9 instead of spending the $350,000, $400,000, or $500,000 that it takes to get the a 296 or something. Okay. But do I think that's going to be changing as more and more Chinese companies make higher and higher end cars? Absolutely.
Interesting. The more interesting thing you said about really the explaining the brand of Yangwang and what it means, and that BYD is going to stick with it, because I have many ideas, many thoughts, and one thing I've been looking at for 20 plus years is with the rise of China, right? I'm ethnically Chinese, parents from Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a fantastically materialistic society.
I was there a month ago. You're right.
Arguably more
more
so than I think it's probably maybe Shanghai now beats it. Pretty close. But everybody's there is fascinated by status.
Everyone wears a Rolex. Your taxi driver has a Rolex.
My uncle had a Porsche there, and it's like, everything. You can gray market anything in, so lots of really cool cars in Hong Kong.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but it's sort of, and it was sort of the exemplar for the longest time of Asia, which is the consumer is status obsessed, and where they look has always been West. It's always been fashion houses on down. So everything was Chanel, Prada, Gucci, right?
Yes.
All the cars are Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Mercedes-Benz. Like, these are the signs that you've arrived. And I've been asking my cousins over there, especially those who are sort of in or paying attention to the fashion industry, like, when is China going to develop their own native luxury brands? They can't be looking West forever, right? There's been some huge scandals too with some of these, especially Italians can never seem to get it right.
Italians, they just step
they're
on
always
their
doing
own.
They're
They
doing the
step on
thing with the chopsticks and the picking up the food and
yes,
making fun of like this enormous country that loves your product. At some point, somebody is going to say, hey, we should be developing our own Chinese luxury brands. And I know they've been trying to do the alcohol side, like Moutai, right?
Moutai, yeah.
Right?
Gasoline and grapes.
Yeah,
that's
white lightning.
White lightning
causes blindness.
I come from the South too. I know white lightning.
But the problem is China, unfortunately, stamped out. They have very few extant brands that you could turn into a luxury brand. There's no native story. Like Toyota likes to lean on this heritage where they were a loom work way back in the day. They were making textile looms, and the textile loom is now what made the LFA, the carbon fiber, right? And then it's the spindle grill on the. How are you going to do that in China, right? A lot of the Chinese car manufacturers either come from mobile phones or they're originally battery makers. I think there might be some cool story there, especially as an EV. But I think what you landed on is that BYD, again, they're leading from a sales perspective. They have some visionaries. If they hold the line, they can be China's first like real luxury, have their first real luxury brand that's authentic.
Yes.
Okay, that's fascinating. There was no question there. That was just me thinking out loud.
Well, no, I would just say I agree with you, and I think that's a good point. And I do think that there is much more of a turning inward when it comes to everything. And just like with cars, it started from the bottom up. It became a thing where when it came to like sport fashion brands, you know, Nike's still very popular. Don't get me wrong, but Arca or whatever these Chinese brands are
leaning, right?
Yeah,
Anta. I was just reading about Anta.
Yep, Anta. They're making real strides in market share. They're taking it away from Adidas and from Nike and from Reebok and everything.
Leaning was the first, I think, Chinese brand that had an NBA player, and I just read up about this Anta brand, which, if you didn't know, they bought Fila, they bought Solomon, they bought Descente, and they just bought Puma.
And that's probably why I suddenly saw a ton of Solomon ads in China.
Right.
It's because they were like, oh, we bought this thing. We probably should start making some money off of it.
They're like the Geely of the sports side. They're just buying all of these brands and building up this army and taking over the world. Okay, so we're over time, but I want to keep going and just bring it home, which is let's talk a little bit about, as you mentioned, our man Miguel did a documentary a few years back on. He noticed that, hey, like 8 Chinese car companies are just setting up shop in Mexico, and those factories are now, I think there's over a dozen now. They're up and running. They're building cars, selling them locally in Mexico, but also through South America. More recently, Canada's Prime Minister laid a smackdown on Donald Trump and said, tell you what, whatever you want to do with your tariff stuff is fine. We're going to invite Chinese manufacturers into Canada, which I think is going to be a real shock, especially when they start landing in Windsor, Canada, which is right across from Detroit.
I was looking at Windsor not but a week and a half ago from Detroit.
Right.
Yeah, when people can look across the river, you know, or the lake, I'm sorry, and see people driving Xiaomi YU7 SUVs and go like, what is that thing? And they can drive across they got Canada plates, they can drive across the border, right?
Exactly.
So you're going to start, as you said, you're going to start seeing in on the Niagara Falls and stuff and all those areas, you're going to start seeing Chinese cars. And if you got people already seeing Chinese cars in America from Mexico, I think basically America is going to be sandwiched between these two countries where Chinese cars are ascendant, is a word I keep using.
We're the meat in the bow.
We're the meat in the balsa. Yes, exactly. And so it's not going to take very long, I think, for American consumers to go, why can't I buy this car?
Right.
Look at what they can get, you know, some at least. And that's all it takes. I think that's just going to be the first thing.
So I think it is going to be a very interesting predicament for Chinese cars when they land in Canada. Canada is, I think it's same distance from us to Mexico, but I think culturally a little more similar.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of folks, they're going to be like, what's this? But again, I listened to your episode about BYD and the price war, and you mentioned something which I hadn't considered, which is foreign markets are very attractive to Chinese car manufacturers because they can charge more, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then what do you think it's going to look like for these? I mean, they're not going to sell Chinese cars in Canada. They can't. First of all, they can't. There's going to be some tariff. There's going to be some cost to import.
Yes.
Right. But they will. You think they will undercut the Mazdas and the Toyotas and the Fords and the Chevys that are being sold in Canada? They would have to.
I think that they're going to undercut them on value. And what I mean is maybe let's move away from the YU7. I mean, maybe if XPeng sends the P7 over there or something. And okay, the XPeng P7 costs a couple $1,000s more than a Model 3, but it's got everything you could ever want in a car in terms of features. So it's value-wise going to move. So I'm not necessarily sure that they're going to always undercut them in price, raw price, but in terms of value, I think it's definitely going to happen. You know, and even though a lot of the versions of cars that get sold in foreign markets from China, a lot of them decontented for technical reasons, like the driver assistance systems can't be supported or whatever. But I do think that you're going to see from a value perspective, they're going to undercut them a lot.
Okay. All right. I have a couple of last questions, but I want to go back to something I forgot to ask you, which is an important one, because I don't want people to think that I'm just going to sit here, that we're sitting here just hyping up the Chinese car industry and that all Chinese cars are great. we did work with, we were doing a little bit of a content sharing, content generation relationship with this brand called Dcar.
Yeah.
Last summer. Didn't work out. It's fine. They were great. They hosted us. We did a bunch of vehicle testing in Wuhan. We instrument tested a lot of vehicles. We found stuff we liked. Like, I think we drove the MG, the Roadster with the cool
Cyberster.
Sorry, with the
Cyberster. Sorry, I have to say it like that. Cyberster.
Right. That's when I drove the Yangwang U8 and did the whole 360. And I drove the Xiaomi SU7 and was frankly amazed that a mobile phone manufacturer can
in 3 years.
Yes, can bring this car out so quickly, and it's looked really good. Had some very unique features inside. Colleagues, friends at Dcar went on to. They're pretty serious about vehicle testing. I don't know how they seem to have endless money to burn.
They got VC money.
Okay.
For the record, we worked with them too.
Okay.
So their Dongchedi is the Chinese name for them.
Dongchedi,
Same thing. Right. We were one of their Dongchedi exclusive studios. So we had a content agreement with him where last year, for about a year and a half, each month we were given a budget which we were able to use to make rent cars, for example. Right. So that's how I was able to get my hands on a lot of the cars that had just come out, and I had to spend thousands of dollars or $1,000 to rent one. So I wouldn't have been able to do that without that. So yeah, and they stopped that program too. So.
Okay, so they must. I think the realization's hitting that it's not as easy in the U.S. to at least take this content to the next level.
Awful hard. Yeah.
Right. But they have done some very interesting testing, including a crash testing, which blew my mind.
Was that the safety systems test?
Yes. But also, I want to talk a little bit. One of those in particular was an ADAS test where they were putting all of the leading systems, including Tesla, up against some very tricky scenarios. And please correct me if I got it wrong, but I feel like a lot of the Chinese manufacturers got exposed a little bit. Like Tesla ended up coming out ahead with a vision-only system. And because I remember looking at your Yangwang U8 video and saying, oh yeah, I totally forgot this thing has it's got 3 LiDARs on it.
Yeah, side and windshield. Yeah.
And I know Chinese manufacturers are very happy to brag about, hey, we got 4 NVIDIA processors.
We have 2,500 tops of computing power.
We have all this computing power. We have 3 LiDARs. We got 5 radars. We got 19 cameras, right? And then a lot of the stuff kind of doesn't work in some cases. So there is a little bit of the mythology, the hype, the build quality looks great, the styling, maybe a little derivative, but the execution, the touch and feel of the surfaces, definitely the screens, they're killing it on the screens. So many screens, so much stuff. They got karaoke on board. They got all this stuff, right? But in your view, does the rubber always hit the road? Is it always like it's real all the way through, or you see some gaps?
There's some gaps. I think that, so I made a video for YouTube. I thought that was such an important test that I actually made a video that I never really made before, which is a video where I sat down and to camera essentially tried to translate the results of that test to a foreign audience, because I felt like it was important to talk about it, because I am someone who is known for being among the first people to show, especially these driver assistance systems from Chinese cars. I am a skeptic of driver assistance systems. Not that I think that I don't believe that human beings are very good at monitoring or task monitoring. Like this is talked about all the time. And I think that these systems are just good enough to allow people to get into real serious trouble. I have used all of them, and I think they're really impressive right up until they're not. Right. Right up until all of a sudden you're driving towards the median and you're like, oh no. And so it was really important for me to, I think, get that message out there. Not because I think that the Chinese manufacturers are full of it, but because I think every manufacturer on earth at this point is full of it. And so I will say that the results of that test surprised me. For add-in context, and I talked about this in my video, I should have talked more about it. There was a real pushback, unsurprisingly, from a lot of people when it came to that test, because as you said, essentially, Tesla came out on top. Now, one piece of context is the fact that I mentioned that Dcar, who did that test, has VC money. That VC also invested in Tesla. Do I think that is evidence that the test was rigged? No, I do not. It's just some added context. Right. The results, a lot of people said, well, of course the vision system worked well. You did it on the sunniest, clearest possible day with nothing that would have aided any of the other systems that have redundancy in the forms of radar and LiDAR. There was also people that made claims about the fact that you can see in the video that So the test, for example, where you had the basically they had the test where the test car driving down the lane, the car in front of it moves to the side to reveal a car that's moving much more slowly. So the system had to respond very quickly then and brake. They insisted that the Tesla cars, the car that was blocking the slow car moved when the car was much farther away. Oh, I'm sorry, I just hit the mic.
Right.
It moved when the car was much farther away. So basically, they rigged it. Again, I didn't really see that, but that was the contention from a lot of people, a lot of Huawei people. I got to tell you, if you think, do you think Tesla stands are kind of a pain in the butt? NIO stands, Huawei stands, they're all out there. Xiaomi stands. It's the same thing over there. You say one thing about one of these brands, and all of a sudden you are going to get inundated with people who are telling you that you're a liar, you're paid by another company or whatever.
You must get it if you say something nice about a Tesla. Like, oh, of course you'd say that. They're an American company.
Well, no? I would, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some of that. There's definitely some of that, but I would say it's more on the other side. I'm sorry. If you can't tell, I've had a cold that started before my 2-week long road trip, and it has not left me. But I think it's probably more coming from the other side. Maybe as you're right, and maybe people just expect me to be more biased towards Tesla. What they don't realize is that I have my own reasons. I'm objective, right? I try to, as my inspirations, such as Mr. Ed Lowe and Mr. Johnny Lieberman would do, I try my best to be objective as a car journalist, and that I keep my own personal opinions about a company to the side.
Have you spent much time driving Tesla FSD?
The last time I drove FSD, so my most popular video last year on Chinese social media, our Chinese video platforms, Billy, as I said, more like YouTube, was my review of the Cybertruck. In which essentially the Cybertruck in China was like, everybody was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever been made. It's so good. I want one. It's awesome. And then I went and I was like, here's what it's like.
Right.
I cut my hand on the door. Right. I literally cut my finger on the door. It was rusting. The actual practicality of it, the interior for $100,000 car is like, this is $100,000? There's nothing. Right. There's nothing in here. You know? And so that was because it was kind of against the flow. And it's how I genuinely felt. That was a very popular video because it was, controversial.
Right.
I don't see
contrarian. You took that stance at peak Cybertruck
around that
hype,
beginning of last year, during my visit home last year. So, I think that
But FSD, you drove. So
FSD, I used it then.
So that would have been 13 or 12. Not great.
It was 12 point something, or 13 point something. It was in February of last year, whatever the latest one at that time would have been. Okay. And I will say that if I had been in China where there were a lot of cameras, I would have had multiple violations.
Okay.
It repeatedly turned right from a lane that was for going straight and left. At one point, it was trying to navigate me to a Tesla supercharger in a Walmart parking lot, and it blew through a light in a turn lane. I was not impressed. I know that the newest system has been vastly improved, apparently.
Next time you come and do a cross-country road trip, you should link up with Kyle Connor, borrow one of his cars with FSD 14, and you can go coast-to-coast hands-free, I think.
I think so. That's what they just did it, right?
Right.
Old Alex Roy did it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we got to wrap. So let me ask you my last few questions. They're all the same iteration of the same question. So we have the bell because my shtick is anytime somebody
I've been waiting. I'm so sorry. I've been trying to find.
Right. You don't have to. It's not.
Can I say it? Can I say it?
Well, I'm going to ask you. Are EVs in your mind inevitable?
I've been waiting this whole time for that. Yes, 100%. 100%. I think that, and I say this as someone who, I love gas cars. Can I tell you? I'm here in LA. I'm gonna pick up a car from Turo. You want to guess what it is? I'm picking it up tonight in Long Beach.
Long Beach, Turo, a Mustang.
74 Vet, baby.
Okay.
C3 Vet. Okay. I am convertible. I couldn't be more excited to put my foot down in here. I love EVs. I love, ICE cars. I want to see a world in which a majority of people who don't care about car enthusiasts, aren't car enthusiasts, that don't care about their car apart from it being a tool for transportation, are able to drive more environmentally friendly and efficient vehicles like electric vehicles. And then I hope to God that there's a world in which people like me and you and a lot of your listeners and my fans are also going to be able to have an old Mustang or have a Porsche and be able to drive it, gas will probably be pretty expensive, but they'll be able to still drive it and enjoy it. Because if you said to me, my ideal garage is an electric car for daily transport, getting around the city, and then, I want a 911 like anybody else.
Okay. Are Chinese EVs inevitable? Ding.
Ding.
For the world, for the U.S.? Do you think they're eventually going to land here?
I find it hard to believe it won't happen. I truly find it hard to believe that there won't be a point at which the American consumer is looking at the leadership of the country and going, what are we waiting for? You know what I mean? Why are we doing this? And I think the way it's going to work is, I think a lot of, put it this way, let's say you've got a Chinese company that wants to come. They're going to go to some right-to-work state in the South, Alabama or whatever, and they're going to say, hello, Governor of Alabama, who is a big Trump supporter. I would like to give your state billions of dollars of investment, right? And tens of thousands of jobs or whatever. You think that governor's going to go, nah. As long as there's not a big federal impediment, such as the fact that all the Chinese tech is banned,
right?
Once the loosening begins, it's not going to, you can't go back. I don't think it's going to happen this exact same way that it happened with a Toyota or a Kia, Hyundai. I think it will be a different, longer process, but I do find it hard to believe that we're not going to see Chinese cars in considerable numbers within the next decade.
You want to put a Polymarket or Kalshi bet on the time frame? You have 5-10 years?
Let's say,
longer?
okay, so let's put it 5 years. I think
Really?
we could see Chinese cars for sale. Not like they've got 10% market share, but I think that we could see a world within the next 5 years where there's a Chinese company who's building a factory on U.S. soil, who's getting ready to sell cars here. Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we're not talking just about like Volvo, which is technically
no,
you're
sure.
Okay.
I mean a Chinese brand,
So
a
then
BYD.
you think your leading contender would be BYD? They're already making electric buses here.
Right.
Okay.
Actually, what's funny? You know who really is the ones that are that break the ground when it comes to newer markets? It's not BYD or Geely. It's Chery. It's Great Wall. These are lesser known.
But they had the state money, right?
Great Wall is technically a privately owned company, but Chery is a state-owned company.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. With respect to all of my friends who work for Chery, they don't make great cars. But unfortunately, for better or worse, they are really willing to go to foreign markets. And actually, Great Wall Motor, for example, Chery, half of the 1 million+ cars that they sell every year, or more than that, are sold outside of China.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a blessing and a curse, because I think like the second Canada opened their borders, right, to Chinese cars, Chery was the first one to step up to the mic and go, we're coming. And I think they're going to be among the first. And they're going to put some cars that, frankly, are not especially competitive in China into the hands of foreign consumers. And I think that a lot of reviewers are going to go, this thing's not that great. This is too soft. This ride's not that great. The handling's bad. The engine is loud. Consumers are going to go, this thing's cheap. I like it.
Right.
And then it's going to be, it's going to take the higher end brands, the higher end in terms of the mainstream. So your BYDs and your Geelys, and then after that, your XPengs and your Zeekrs and stuff like that, to come and really prove that they can be more than just cheap.
Well, I think you kind of nailed my view on this is, man, and I have a column I'm supposed to write about this, but I'll just rephrase it, which is, the reason Chinese cars aren't already in the U.S. is, I'm going to start right in the camera, is you, the consumer. Because all of the American car manufacturers, they know, and they've talked to their congressmen and they've lobbied, keep these Chinese brands out.
Yep.
Because we know the consumer, once they get here, to what Jim Farley said, to what you said, the brand's ultimately not going to matter that much. To the enthusiast, I love that Ford has the history. I love that Porsche's got all the racing credentials. All that stuff is a great story. But just go to Costco and go look at the big screen TVs at the front of the store and look at what's on sale now versus what was on sale 5-10 years ago. 5-10 years ago, it was Sony Bravia, it was Panasonic, it was some, and they were crazy expensive. Now you got TCL, you got Hisense, and these are like 85-inch TVs for like
$350
Yeah,
or something.
something ridiculous, right? Go look at the refrigerator. Haier used to be Whirlpool, now it's a Chinese brand,
Yep.
right? This story's already been told. The minute we let these car companies in and they sell a product that is competitive, doesn't necessarily have to be better, but they will be better in some cases for a price that's 30, 40, 50% less, it's game over. So
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Okay.
I can't wait to read your column.
oh shoot. Well,
He's got to write it. Now
All
he's
right.
thinking, I got to write this.
All right, we're way over time. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, I am impressed that you were able to keep me to this short. Usually it's very hard.
Okay. Ethan Robertson, Wheelsboy. I'm gonna go back and watch your split screen on that D car review. I think I actually saw it, but I didn't watch the whole thing. But
That's okay.
I'm fascinated to go back and take a look at it. We got through like almost all of my questions.
Good.
And
Any quick ones? I can be fast.
No, I mean no. You kind of nailed it. I asked you like which cars. Oh, yeah. I asked you this. I kind of prepped you on this one. The Mercedes-Benz VLE just was
Yeah.
announced. I have a soft spot because I went on the launch, and this vehicle they call it a Grand Limo. It's a van. It's not a minivan. It's like a big van.
Right.
The big one that's coming here is going to be about 3 inches longer than a Cadillac Escalade. It's going to be like $80,000 or $90,000 to start. Super luxurious, captain's chairs, the whole thing. The real deal is that it is a competitor to like the Zeekr
009.
009 and the Denza.
The Denza D9,
D9.
the Auto Mega,
Yes.
Buick GL8,
Yes.
right? The
Galate.
car that
Yes.
the Galate that nobody in America knows exists.
Right. So luxury MPV.
Yeah,
This
huge
is
segment. In
huge
China.
segment. I want this to be successful in the U.S. because I love it. Like,
Yeah, me too.
I love dual sliding doors. I think they make a lot of sense for my older parents or just like I want a pimpin' van.
Yeah.
Do you think the VLE is going to be successful in China? It's got a star on the nose. Probably comes down to price, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. In preparation for this, I had a conversation with my Chinese colleague Justin, who I said here in the room, and we agreed it's going to really come down to the price, and that's true for every car, obviously. But in the Chinese market, if they can put that car between, say, $500,000 to $600,000 RMB, which I mean, spitballing is like $75,000 to $90,000, then I think that they have something that could be competitive against a Li Auto Mega. Remind me the powertrain in that car.
They have
Is it a plug-in hybrid or anything?
No. For the initial launch would be an EV.
Right.
Oh, I have the notes right here.
Okay.
It's a full EV, front wheel drive and all wheel drive. The VLE 400 4MATIC is something like I don't want to say.
If it's electric, it'd be dual motor then.
It's a dual
4MATIC.
motor.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get you the battery size.
That's okay. Well, I would say this: if they can put it between 500 to 600,000 RMB, like I said, $75,000 to $90,000, just off the top of my head, I would say that yes, they could have a vehicle that could go up against something like the Mega. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to price it at 7, 8, 900,000 RMB, maybe even $1 million, and a lot of Chinese consumers are going to go, okay, why would I spend that much money on this?
Right.
Because the Germans and a lot of other car companies just can't come to grips with the fact that they're, as we talked about, the brand cachet, the margins they are so used to having are a thing of the past, and they are not coming back.
This would be 305 kilowatt for the VLE 400 with 4MATIC all-wheel drive, 200 kilowatt output for the front-wheel drive, 300, and the maximum range would be 700 kilometers on WLTP.
That is a great range, even in comparison to something like a Mega. But
800 volt architecture.
That's good. Finally, they're getting to 800 volt. Now they have to actually find, in America, you got to find somewhere to charge it with 800 volt. But the, just off the top of my head, a 200 kilowatt front wheel drive gigantic MPV like that for whatever the price they're going to charge.
Chinese people don't drive that fast, right?
Yeah, but they also can look and see that the Mega has 400 kilowatts, right? It's 500 some horsepower, whatever, and they don't need it to be incredibly fast. And this is something I've always talked about. Li Auto has always been pretty smart in that they, especially with their L series SUVs, their E-Revs in the beginning, they were like the ideal 0 to 100 kilometer per hour timer, 0 to 62 for a family SUV is 5.6 seconds, and we ain't gonna go any faster than that. And guess what? Consumers went, you're right.
Right.
We don't need to do 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds in my family SUV.
Right.
So I think that there will be a certain segment of higher end rideshare drivers, and maybe higher consumers that want to have the face of the Mercedes badge, and they're like, oh, I'll snatch one of these up. But if they price it the way I think they are, I don't expect it to be very competitive, frankly.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah.
And the next time you're in town, please give us a shout. We can help arrange some cars.
Thank you.
Maybe come by and check out how we test cars. And you're going to go to, is it the Beijing show that's coming up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're going to be sending a guy, Mr. Mike Floyd, I think will be out there.
Give him my number.
Okay. He'll be on a Geely trip.
Okay.
So
Geely, yeah, all the Chinese manufacturers, I look forward to hearing from him. They see if I can find some time to talk to him, because the Chinese manufacturers, they'll basically, you arrive and then everything until that point until you leave, they have figured out for you.
Yes, by the millisecond.
By the millisecond, yeah.
So, okay, we'll connect you two and then look forward to chatting with you again.
Absolutely.
Ethan Robertson, Wheelsboy. Check them out on YouTube.
Mhm.
Just search Wheelsboy.
Wheelsboy.
A lot of content if you're interested. And then on Instagram, Wheelsboy_auto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other platforms to shout out?
I mean, you can look for me on TikTok. I'm on there.
Okay.
One thing I would like to mention, for those people who have hung in there and listened to my voice for this long, they may be someone who would be interested in the Wheelsboy EV Tour. So Wheelsboy EV Tour, yeah. So Wheelsboy EV Tour is a thing we started a couple of years ago, where basically we came to the realization that we had so many subscribers and fans living abroad who were very interested in Chinese cars, but they had no way to drive them. They weren't in their markets.
Right.
And so we figured out a way to invite those people to China to join us for a EV experience, we'll call it. So previously, in previous events, I'll just talk about Beijing this year. I think we're actually, it's closed at this point, but maybe if this comes out fast, you might be able to sneak in.
Okay.
But we are bringing our subscribers and fans to join us in Beijing for a very small fee. It's like $100, $200, $300 something. You come, I will take you personally on a guided tour of the Beijing Auto Show on the 26th of April. And then on the 27th, we're touring the Xiaomi factory to see where they make the SU7 and the YU7. So people that are interested can either email tour@wheelsboy.cn, not .com, but .cn, or they can go to wheelsboyselect.com. And so we previously, and maybe later in this year or next year, we do events where we don't just do, we basically put together a fleet of cars and then allow you to drive them on a road trip. So we had last year around the Shanghai Auto Show, we had a group come. We had an SU7. We had a Avatar 1.2, which is a car I didn't mention before, but I really like what they're doing.
Avatars are wild.
We had an IML L7 and stuff, or LS7, all these different cars.
So do you, the person who's interested in going on a Wheelsboy tour, they have to get themselves to China. This is not like an all-inclusive like tour package.
No, that would be because honestly, a lot of the people that end up coming are people that are flying first class.
Okay.
And we invite people of all economic statuses, but honestly, when you have someone, you say to them, hey, do you have a week or so in the middle of the year to come to China? You end up with people who are older, who have disposable income, and they like to travel in comfort. But
do you help them get a visa, or is it they can come in, or do you like go to Korea and then fly over?
So we have a tour company with like 20 years of experience inviting and hosting foreigners in China who we work with and partner with. And so they can handle pretty much everything for you for a fee on top of course, what we're giving you in part of the tour.
What visa do they get?
They would get a tourist visa.
And can I get an M visa? I would send my staff on this to get
M visa. Would be that a journalist visa? Or?
No, it's just business to business.
Business.
Like if you guys invited us.
Everything. Hey, listen. 都可以讨论,
Okay.
Which means in Chinese, we can talk, anything can be discussed.
Okay.
And so I would say that, So anybody that wants to come in, that wants to get hands-on with these cars and see them in person, at least for Beijing, and seeing them and and riding in them, reach out.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll do, because I'm glad you mentioned it, because I was curious about how the tour works. I might be reaching out. But Ethan Robertson, Wheelsboy, 谢谢. Thank you for coming.
不用谢.
All right. Thank you, and best of luck in your travels home.
Thank you very much.
All right.